Hi, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of Cynthia Sue Larson joining us on the experience. Welcome back, Cynthia.
Thank you, Nora. Such a pleasure talking with you.
Yay. I just want to say that it's June. It's the beginning of June 2021. What's today? The 7th? And it is a weird time. So anyone who is watching this like around this time, holy guacamole, it's very, very weird, and you're not the only ones. And so I think, I haven't spoken with you, Cynthia, about how weird it is, but it's weird. And so we could talk about it. And then we're also going to do reality shifting tips, but let's just talk about what's happening.
Yeah, well, there are definitely people that watch celestial events might notice that there's going to be that Ring of Fire eclipse coming. What, the 10th? What is today?
Yeah.
It's getting weird already.
Yeah, it is. Time is so weird.
I was going to say, if you're energy sensitive, I think we're really going into the thick of it. But that was happening already this year. In fact, since last year, it's been a steady ramping up, and just when we can't think it, we think it can't get any weirder, but no.
Au contraire. I'm grounding right now. I'm have my little copper grounding heart, because I'm just like, pow, totally shooting off into the stratosphere and not on the ground today.
Right. Well, what's hilarious is we left off last time on tip 4, and then I didn't get to the tip 5, which is halfway through. And guess what it is? I think it's better we didn't, because it's energize yourself. But you know what? You're doing the right thing. Grab onto some obsidian or tourmaline or something. Or what is that? That's beautiful. You've got a special grounding.
This is a copper heart. So it's interesting, the color that's coming out, just the lighting, it's sort of yellower than it is. It has more, like if you see it with, in person, it has more of a pinkish hue to it. But it also, when you carry copper, it kind of makes your hands stink. It leaves its trace, but the minute I put it in my hands, I dropped into my body, because and I don't drink a lot of coffee, but the coffee I drank today was just like, wah.
That's the other thing. You might want to just stick with like coconut water stuff.
Yeah. Or I have a nice decaf that I usually have, and I put like a sprinkle of regular caffeinated, and it's just like,
yeah. So some of us don't need to be energized. We need grounding, but the whole thing goes together. So for the best results with reality shifting, you need that balance. You need to be, but most people usually, if it isn't times like this, have energy issues where they feel like they're just not getting enough energy to get the reality shifts. Right now, there's an abundance. So
yeah, let's talk about the abundance of energy, because from your point of view, I just love hearing the way you frame things. What do you think is happening? Like, why is there so much energy?
Well, it's hard to say what the cause is. I mean, when you look for ultimate causation, I tend to agree with the physicist Max Planck that said consciousness is fundamental. You can't get behind consciousness. So when I look for cause, I look for consciousness. And so, basically that's our final thing that's going on. But as far as everything in between, then we want to say, yeah, but what's going on now? Why is it so crazy now? And that's when we get into things like the Mayans that we're talking about, these different ages that we're going through, and that basically what they're describing is this kind of ramping up of energy. They may not phrase it that way, but physicist Carl Kalaman does phrase it that way, and he talks about the 9 waves of creation. So if people are wondering what's going on right now, those are some good places to look. But it doesn't really matter because we're in it. So this has always been recognized by so many different indigenous cultures. I like to look at the Hopi culture with their prophecy rock, where they show the 2 paths to go forward. One looks a lot like transhumanism to me, and this whole false prophecy or false prophets, I think, of trusting that we can just put all this technology inside of ourselves and we'll solve all our problems. We'll upload our consciousness to the cloud. We can die and keep going. It's crazy. So I think that's what the Hopi actually have on there. When people wonder, what is that little line that fizzles out, goes into the clouds and vanishes? To me, it's like, well, it's telling you what it is, you know? It's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically telling us choose your timelines, you know, and what are the choices here? Well, one is disconnected. It's like the technology does it. You can detach. Doesn't matter about relationships. The other one, it does matter that I care about you, that I'm on your short show, Nora, because I'm a fan of yours. You know, I love what you're doing. And that's, you know,
Aw.
that's why we do what we do. You know, otherwise, if it's not for these connections, if they're not genuine, you can see it for yourself on the news. Everything that's not real is rattling apart. And
Totally.
that's gonna ramp up,
Totally.
you know.
Well,
Yeah,
I appreciate that and I love it so much because I feel like I'm just in my own inner work, I'm being asked to reconcile what is true for me, what is my sort of true timeline, what do I want to what do I care about, what am I connected to, what is my soul essence here to do. And you know what I also love, and it's just kind of a sidebar, is I love the idea that the sun has a lot of energy. Like I've been hearing that there's solar flares and like there's a lot of activity going on with the sun, and there's something about like a celestial body that is like it sort of feels like that's what's happening to me too. Like I'm having energetic flares. Like some days, like this weekend I went into an emotional state where I was releasing some old shit, you know, like I didn't even know what it was, and I was on a long walk with a girlfriend of mine, and it's so amazing to have people that you can really drill down, who are just as dedicated and moving through their shit as you, and just sort of looking at it and tuning into it, it just started to reveal itself. And it was just an old aspect that needed to be like just acknowledged and held, and then it integrated. And then the whole next day was like integration, rest, conversation with other loved ones. And then I was through it, and I was like, I was in a different level. I was at a different place of capacity, and I was creative, and it was incredible. And it was just being there on the journey with myself through this evolution that it seems to be. There's, from my point of view, it's like this introspective, it's like if you want to do the work, go within, you know. And I
right.
think that transhuman point of view is, it's a point of view that you can totally double down on and go, but it seems to be absent of what we're already holding, which is our soul. Like, you know, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And so if that is so, everything that we need, all of the gadgetry, all of the creations are all contained within us already. So
Exactly.
creating it outside ourselves seems to be a complete like facade or a fallacy or a it just seems like no, it's already here. Like come back in. It's all here.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And I just had an interview with Bill McKenna and Liz Larson. It'll be broadcast this week for my podcast, Living the Quantum Dream. They're the creators of
Cool.
Cogno Movement, and they have, it's just a tool set for, like, if people are listening to us and maybe hypnotherapy, they don't like it, or they don't want to work with you or I, but they just want to do something like they're physical, then they can just, I've actually got the ball right here, weirdly. I think so. Here it is. So they work
Oh,
with the ball.
cool.
So it's kind of, I think, you know, it's another technique for, and I've heard there's neuro movement in Europe. So these are these new things of working with left and right brain, eye movement, tapping, bringing it all together and working with what nature gave us to release all that stuff. So even if people feel like I don't have a friend and I don't, you know, whatever, they're limited, there are ways to do this. So, and
Yeah.
it's just built, or it's built into us. And that's the key. That lower line on the Hopi prophecy rock, that's the one where the people keep their true relationship to nature, planting crops, caring about animals, caring about plants, that these are our relations. Plants are family. Animals are family. We are family with each other. And I think that's how you can tell when things are off or on. And So I think that's really super, super important. And I coined this term that we don't need to coin it, but just some people can say, what are you doing if you're not transhuman? It's like, I'm rev humanism. I'm a rev
Ooh,
humanist
love
because
it.
it's reverent and it's
Mhm.
returning to revitalizing through nature. So it's about recognizing that that's here. It's not a Luddite. You don't have to be anti-technology. It's just knowing that the technology is just part of something that we work with. It's not, we should never be giving too much of our, it's like, it's not like it now is running the show and it's our new God. That's a
Right.
big mistake.
I agree. And I love the word reverence because I believe that that's what's missing from our appreciation with technology is that sacred connection that is a felt sense and feelings. I think that's why there really is a branching off of people who are more invested and interested in tuning into what the felt sense is, what the experience of being feels like, because when we're just in the intellect, we just miss so much of what we're capable of and what it feels like to be human. And I have to say, I am so down with like the quick transformational stuff of the using the hemispheres of the brain for those huge releases and quick, in the moment, like,
Mhm.
it's just paying attention in the moment, manifestation, shifting, and it's not like I'm going to change so I can be on autopilot. I think that's been kind of the notion that we've been living in, like, I see it in my husband's generation because he's a little bit older than me and he's like headed towards retirement age, and it's like, I work this hard, then I'm going to retire, then I'm done. And I'm just like, honey, you ain't ever done. Like, and do we really want to ever be done? Is that why we came into human experiences, is to learn and then be done? What is done? Done to me means death. Like,
Yeah.
go ahead.
That's so funny. This ties into that energy. We're talking about tip 5. And I used to work in a corporate jobs and I know what that feels like when you're just
That
kind of
just
counting the
blows my
days.
mind.
I know, weird, right? Yeah, I was worked in information technology, project manager, have an MBA, etc. It was a high tech job, working in finance of all things, international banking and all that. Yeah, so I left that realm because it didn't really energize me. It wasn't something that fed my soul. So I think that's where people think they get confused. They just feel like I'm going to retire, then I'm done. They don't realize, well, what are you living for? And there are fun things to do. You can be in service to the world, having your fun, doing what you like to do. So I think that's,
Now.
especially if it's when it's helping other people. So
Oh,
that
I
gives you
totally
energy.
agree.
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
agree. 100%. And I'm going to let you share your stuff. I think just what's coming up just feels so um, time appropriate. And I'll say this, something that I'm noticing about the corporate realm is there is that division taking place there where how was it? It was on a Sounds True podcast, and I forget the name of the guy, but he was talking about doing an inner MBA, and the idea is, and he's a financial wellness professional, and I remember back in 2013 I was like, we need healers in the financial sector so much, because the way that we think about abundance and the way that it actually is
Right.
expressing itself are different. And so, I mean, who doesn't have growing up in a typical human experience, who doesn't have stuff around money to heal? And it just feels so exciting that there, that sort of the division of like earths, like earth going off in like a conscious earth where humans are ready to evolve, and maybe another one where they're going in a different direction, seems really plausible on a quantum level, because it's like we're choosing, there are people like us choosing every day to go in the direction of our higher calling, our higher self. And it's like, what does that ultimately look like? It doesn't seem like they're the same place that we're creating.
Yeah, they're two different things. It's that Hopi prophecy rock again. And by the way, are you wearing a Wonder Woman bracelet? I
Oh,
love it.
I'm all like,
Oh my gosh, I love it. You wave it around. So
I'm
much
not
fun.
Italian, but I've somehow got it in me.
I love it. Yeah, I love that internal MBA too. Yeah, we definitely have some issues with money that are kind of inculcated in our culture and our families of origin. And I deal with that in my book, High Energy Money, of course, but it ties in with the next tip of reality shifting, amazingly, which is one of the big things you can do with that money to get your inner MBA is tip number 6 is reverse negative self-talk. So you really walked right into that one. To me, it's like that brings it right up. So what is negative self-talk? Well, that's what we internalize when we get these fearful ideas about money, like you have to work till you die, and this like life is hard and then you die, all these very negative things in general. Like, what is this? And money is the root of all evil. That's a good one. I mean, like, what? what are we doing to money? Why does it get saddled and scapegoated like this?
Rich people are bad. Rich people are evil.
Yeah. This doesn't make any sense. If that was you being talked about that way, it would be very offensive.
Yeah.
And we have rights for everyone else. Next thing you know, it's money rights matter. As money, money matters. Its feelings matter, and it is a good thing. It's not intrinsically bad. It's energy. It's just pure energy. It's a stand-in for how do we care for one another. Here's the real problem is if we're just saying like, I'm just going to let my money do everything and I don't have to talk to you, I don't have to care about you, that is actually understanding that these two paths are a little bit off. Yeah. So one, you care about each other, and money is part of how you care and what's going on there. The other one, it's like you can disconnect, and it's part of, I just let my money do things for me. That's a bit crazy. That's so.
I think we all can relate to money stories that don't serve us. And I remember my dad, when he was a little boy, he didn't have money. And so I think through the lens of lack and struggle, he interpreted money in a way that was like, okay, I'm going to make a lot of money. And when I do, I'm not going to think about it at all. And it's sort of along the lines of what you're talking about is I'm just going to, the money is just going to have its way with me as a way of, instead of me making decisions about where my money is going to go, or being intentional about it, or using it in a way that is in harmony with my soul expression. And he did make a lot of money, and he died in 2003, and he was afraid to look at his bills. He was afraid to, it's like he wanted to stay with blinders on about his relationship with money. And it was so clearly separate from him. It was this device that he struggled with. And I witnessed that as his kid. And I remember there's been a lot of work around that, because it's sort of like, I come from a place where I witnessed somebody making abundance, but I also witnessed somebody, the same person really struggling with his relationship with it. And again, there's that hard relationship, that it's not an easy relationship. It's not a loving relationship. It's not an honoring, sacred relationship, or a reflection of the deeper soul capacity that we have. It's tight. It's restrictive. It feels uncomfortable.
This is why it's good you're doing what you do, because you get it. Like, why would someone need to get into the depths of, where you can use hypnotherapy to address these things? Because otherwise, like, oh my goodness, like, where do you start?
Yeah. And I'm also using bilateral movement in my work, because it's so rapid.
Super powerful, super fast. Yeah.
That's
so cool.
Yeah.
So but one thing I wanted to talk about is these ideas. When we hear ourselves thinking, we're saying them, like I just said, some ones that I don't want to build into my energy field, or yours, or anyone listening, then you can reverse it right out. Like, so money is the root of all generosity. Money is the root of all kindness. Money is the root of, our way to gift much more than we ever thought we could. And in perpetuity, long before we're even dead, we can create foundations. Money is a way to share goodness, joy, blessings in the world. So it's not saying
Beautiful.
that yeah, it can be other things too, but we're just trying to reverse out this damaging bias that we somehow inadvertently, often unknowingly do. And so we can do that kind of money just happened to be what we're talking about, but basically anything. I'm not going to bring up things that we can't broadcast on the channel, but there are things going on in the world right now that shall
Yeah.
not be named because of the channel. And so not just you, but just in general. So anything like that, if you feel fear, that's the thing. Are you feeling fear? When you feel fear, then try to look to see where it might be a belief that you've incorporated, probably inadvertently. These beliefs are almost random. Like, just because you have one that's fearful, you don't have to hold that, whether it's
Yeah.
fear for yourself, fear for others. This is a time to be much more accepting, much more kind, and just recognize things are fine, even though they may not feel fine. Let's start there. Get more grounded, like you're doing today. I love your copper heart. That's so cute, the heart too. You and the bracelets and the heart. Like
Yeah.
super Nora.
That's right.
We got super Nora today. So yeah, I think that was what I wanted to say about that. Was just it's really about recognizing that you can take a look at your self-talk and be mindful of it, because these are not the programs that you were given that you must live your whole life with. Oh, no. This is something you can absolutely work with and change. So, and beliefs, they go unchecked and unnoticed unless someone is fortunate to work with you
Or
or a
you.
coach someone that can help them see, like, oh, I don't have to believe this. Maybe I never
Right.
did, but yeah.
Yeah, you can catch yourself right in the act of feeling crappy about, like, of running one of those loops of negative self-talk or fear. And I've seen it in my own family of origin, how some beliefs within the family are like, if you worry, it's actually productive, which is such a lie, right? Like, worrying is not productive at all, and it's generating more of that reality. And so just catching yourself, I find that in my work that people often, there's almost like a threshold, like where it's got to be really feeling horrible in order to notice that something's off, right? And it's
Right,
like
right.
this, the more we act and pay attention to things, we start and notice what's felt in the body, we can catch it earlier and earlier and then get it. I mean, the kind of noticing that you're talking about is the moment it pops into your head, flip it on its ear and transform it into the opposite. So instead of money, catching yourself saying money is the root of all evil, to money is the root of all harmony and happiness and joy in my life, or something to that
These
effect.
can Yes, and these can become affirmations. So some people are like, I'm
Totally.
not good at I can't catch it that fast, Cynthia. Nora, you guys are experts. You're like Wonder Woman, and I can't do that. So it's like, okay, no problem. Just when you do catch it, even days, weeks later, then you recognize, oh my gosh, there it is. Good. Well, then make
Yeah.
a note of it. Flip it
Yeah.
around. There's your personal affirmation. And that's the key of it's another great technique. So then you've got a toolbox for getting through whatever those issues might be. And they're your own kind of affirmations. You can write a song with them, put them on the fridge, put them in your wallet, put them on Post-its, put them everywhere.
I
And there they
love it.
are.
Write a song. Yeah, I mean, it's so true. These personalized tools that we develop over time, I think there's this belief that somehow a little tool that I create out of words is somehow not as valuable. But it's like, over time, if you just keep staying on the path of shifting the thoughts of wanting to feel better, of, as you like to say, looking at it, how how good can it get, um it will change. And I think, what are the priorities? Are the priorities to stay in the reality in the way that you have historically been going and it doesn't feel great, or just being able to double down and commit to a completely different way of being, one that does offer the opportunity to check in constantly and be connected and be in presence and feel optimistic and joyful and feel delicious and build on that and
Exactly. And you know, something else that people can do just by watching your show right now, just listening to this, is feeling the connection. That would be the next step, you know, just recognizing you can stay, even though you're non-local to each other, like they're not right there in the house with you. I can't try on your bracelet, see like, oh, does this fit? Looks so cool.
I so want to share it. I just pop it right off and
okay, there we go.
wouldn't that be a cool trick if you had one and you go, here, I have it.
And I could try it and hand it back. Like, okay, that was cool.
That's new. That would be, when that happens, I'll be so excited.
Well, we could try something like that if you have Kleenex or something nearby. Those are fun. Well, never mind. And our pen prick. We can do it with our pen if you still have that one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can pass it to you.
Yes.
Yeah. Fun.
Yay!
Okay, that's just silly. But feeling non-locally interconnected, that's like this. It's just having the fun of it, laughing, feeling that you do have this family that's much more than the family of origin. Because sometimes we feel like we've gotten what we can get from that. We feel stuck or stifled or something. And so, yeah, that's okay. We're meant to be fledglings and fly and find other soul family members everywhere that we can find them. Maybe there aren't that many. Quality matters more than quantity. So don't worry about that either. And, you know, just to find just a few is really good. And that connection is so powerful. It was proven scientifically in some studies where they were looking at multi-generational households in Rosito. It was this weird situation where these Italian American families had reduced that they were bucking the odds on heart issues, even though they're eating like the worst heart foods ever. You know, they're eating cheeses and lasagna and cannelloni and I don't know what, but it was like, and so people came to figure out, what are these people doing? And what they were doing was having these connections. They had multi-generational households. They really had that beautiful bond going on. So that's one of the things we can create. You don't have to be in an Italian family. You can create it, even with podcast shows, friends on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, listen to us. We love you, and we want you to connect with us and be a part of the communities that we are growing. I mean, we're just like you. We're just, you know, deciding one foot in front of the other and being, you know, our soul selves, like really anchoring into that. And so is that in that study, they're finding that being in community in that way is it creates heart health.
Yeah, they tried to figure out what was going on. It seems like it reduces stress, even though you would think like, oh, my family's stressful. Well, so are those families, but it's doing something at a deeper level where they feel safe. There's something that happens because we are social animals, and when we feel intrinsically that we're not so frightened and we're not in that fight or flight mode. So you need a good family. Clearly, it's not going to happen with everybody. So, but that's what they were noticing, is it seemed like it was having a definite stress effect, you know, that was very positive for people. So they felt they can handle things. And I actually can see this when I look at my grandmother's family and how they grew up on a farm, and she had all these sisters, like there were 6 sisters and a brother, and they just looked after each other. They'd get to, even when they all grew up, they'd meet every Sunday, growing huge, big families coming together for picnics in the park and by the river. And they look, I know. And even my mom, when they built their house, it was like it was like a house raising, like all of the people that worked together came and helped her build her house. That's amazing that was my generation, just one back from me, that they were doing that. So I can feel it. It's close enough. I can feel it. Like that felt good, but we're not doing that nowadays, at least not that I could, not typically.
Not a lot. So. Yeah. I mean, I know the Burning Man community, because I've been a part of it, is very much like that. You know, people in smaller groups, but the level of coordination that needs to happen in order to build these incredible, mind-blowing structures that other people who are showing up at Burning Man can actually interact with and walk on and play on. And it's they bring it up sometimes with like, semis. I'm sure you're in Berkeley, you see everybody they didn't have Burning Man this year. They're not having it this year, but they're going to have it, I hope, in 2022. And just in the time around the end of August, the Bay Area is like, everybody's getting ready for Burning Man. Everybody's loading up. All the rental trucks are filled up. And so there's this intention, but our lives can be that way. They really can. And I think, to your point about shifting your reality, there's something beyond the trauma and the negative self-talk and the story that is limiting. There's more. And then what's beyond that is this place of, some people may say, oh, it's just utopia. It's not utopia. It's people evolving into a better expression of ourselves, where we're a healthier human family, we're a more loving human family. And the dynamic, there's always going to be what humans go through. We're on a celestial body swirling around in space, so we're always going to be surface people on Earth. So we'll have to deal with the dynamics of what that brings, but then we're also conscious beings.
Yes. And this is the perfect segue to the next one I was going to talk about, number 8, which is visualizing, like, what do you really desire? Because that's the key. And when people are feeling like, what do you miss most when you can't go to Burning Man or what have you? This is a time of great creativity, great visualization, great possibility, because we can start wondering, what would we like to create? What did we miss the most, and what didn't we care so much about? And things can shift. And you're right, it's not Shangri-La, although I love Shangri-La. I love those kind of utopia ideas, but we can just look even at your home, your house, your garden, like, what could make it more fun? And I think people are doing that a lot more than they used to, partly because we've been spending a lot of time in our homes, but that's such a good thing to do anyway. It's a really good thing.
I love it. I love it. And people are writing music. I think we're going to see in retrospect, like, now that things are opening, because we have a place, we live out in the country in North Carolina, and there's a place really close to where we live where they do a lot of live shows, and it was shut down during the whole pandemic thing. And now, like, it was packed with people, and the excitement, you could hear the excitement of the crowd and the music. And it's like, there's starting to be like a coming out awakening. People are ready to be social again. And I think what we're going to see is a lot of expression of creativity.
I think so too. I think I hear some people say it's going to be different, but I think there's going to be a time of adjustment. But I'm sure as soon as it's approved and safe and so forth, we'll all be back to our music. The musicians have been amazing, and what a difficult time to go through this has been, because, like, people often don't realize they count on these events for their livelihood. So if you do, this is just a shout out for anybody that loves musicians, live musicians. Check out how they're doing. They probably have Patreon pages and stuff, because this has been some time for them. It's been challenging, but yeah, we can totally pull forward out of this. And I think we are. I think it's starting to happen here in California. It's looking promising, so we'll see.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, at least for outdoor venues, and maybe not the same peak capacity crowds that we used to have. But yeah, it's good. I think things are changing. So I want to talk about number 9, because these are kind of in order. The next thing after you think of something, you think, yeah, I want to do live events and get back into the music celebration and the gatherings. It's good to, once you have that thought, before you can have any chance, or before anyone has a chance to throw a wet blanket on it, let go of it, just release it. So it's really, this release is so important, just to accept things as they are, kind of like, that would be great, and there it is.
There doesn't need to be any doubt. Yeah, I love that wet blanket visual. It's so apropos. It's like I'm sure people who are listening, they know exactly that's that mode. It's just like when people are learning how to access their, like, more clairvoyant or inner hearing, inner listening, inner knowing and when they're
Yeah.
like, okay, having to hear it for the first time, or even in hypnosis when they're tuning into what they're receiving in that moment, and the critical mind or the mental mind wants to pop in, it's usually after they experience something, and then that wet blanket comes in and is like, wow, I don't know about that, and that's what I tell them. It's usually the thing, go with the thing that happened first. The other thing is the wet blanket.
That's so good. Oh my gosh. That's funny and true and sad all at once. It's like, that's
Well, we
hilarious.
all know it, right? We all know it. It's like, oh, hi,
Oh my
wet
gosh.
blanket. How are you, buddy?
I just I just published my newsletter for this month, June, and I share that story with the curtains, and I drop a tiny little screw which falls on the carpet, and I'm like I'm like, oh gosh, I'm down on my hands and knees looking in the shag carpet for a while, stand up, and then I keep looking at the sofa, which is a nice red blanket on it, and I'm thinking, sure would be nice if that teeny tiny little screw would have just landed there. But okay, I'll go look on the floor again. So, but you see, what I'm doing is I know like this can shift. And what I find, and then I've just said, no question. I did this like repeated it. Stand up, look at that. Like that would be a nice spot. Oh, well, back to the floor where it probably dropped, because that's where it was when I let go of it. So, I'm back there again. But the third time I say, no questions asked. It sure would be nice. And no questions asked. And then I look, and there it is. There it is. There it is. I share a picture of it, how tiny it is. It's one of those microscopic little screws
They're
to hold
so
up this
easy to fumble up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really old too. It's been there for like a long time. Anyway, but the reason that I'm bringing that up with really get rid of the wet blanket is if you have that wet blanket, you can kind of say no questions asked, and that's telling the wet blanket side of your mind, like,
Yeah.
we're not going to go there. It's like a preemptive strike. Like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is so brilliant. I love it. I mean, because there are times when I'm in a phase of meditation and my mind wants to be super active. My wet blanket wants to be very active. And so there are, I mean, it's not pretty, but there are times when I start my meditation with every thought that pops into my head. Nope, 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 nope. And then it eventually, like, it all starts to chill out, and it's like, then I can actually go into the space, but it's almost like, and sometimes the wet blanket's like, isn't that a little bit negative or negating? But it's like, nope, nope, no. And it works. I mean, for those of you who want to try something atypical in the meditation realm, just try that. That actually works for me. It's easier when my brain isn't like, zinging a million miles an hour, but it's something to try.
Oh my gosh, yes. That reminds me, I was teaching a class for gifted kids. It was part of a summer program at UC Berkeley. So it was Summer Institute for the Gifted, a great program. I hope it comes
Cool.
back.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Anyway, so I on the first day of class, I just I did, basically talking about the material and what we're going to be covering, and I had mentioned we'll be doing meditation, and so every day we'll be doing this. And anyway, I just did a simple one, describing like this. Here's one that we can do today. That's just, you can just observe your thoughts and then watch them as if you're looking at clouds in the sky. And your goal is to clear the sky of all the clouds. If the clouds were thoughts, you're just going to wait till it gets all clear. So I described all that, and then like a week later, I show up. I'm outside the office, and I see a student. She's about 15, 16, sitting on the ground, looking kind of sad. And it looked like maybe she'd been. Now, if you're in the summer program, there are behavioral standards and so forth, so you can't get expelled. It looked like she was getting expelled after the first week. So, but then she just looked up at me and said, "I know," and she said, "What was that thing you were talking about clearing your mind?" And so I just stopped everything I was doing. I just sat down with her, like, let's do it right now. This is a life skill. This can change your whole life. This one thing, even if this is all you get, I told her, even if this is all you get out of the whole class, this is the main thing. So yeah, let's do it right now. And I could tell, like, she really cared. When you care that much about it, then you can do it, and it can totally change everything. Even a bad startup, a bad childhood, bad life, whatever it was, doesn't matter.
Yeah. That resilience. I mean, it's so fascinating and really trippy. I mean, that's what's so magical about our consciousness, and is that there's really no explanation as to why that works other than it's just completely resetting and recalibrating. And it's sort of like, I mean, the way I see it is it just creates that, it clears the white noise, and it gets you in that sort of like into like attunement with your higher self, with the ability to have access to all things that are knowable. And it's like it's just, there's so much faith and trust around that. And I think that's why it's tricky or woo woo for people, because it's something that's so elusive in explanation, but you, it's so, the experience is so undeniable.
It's powerful. Yeah, I think it's our ego. You could call it the ego that's trying to
Mhm.
grab onto it. That little wet blanket voice, the monkey mind. Is lots of names for this thing.
Yeah, yeah, the wet blanket voice.
I love that.
Me
But,
too.
but then when you get back to that core, it's just pure joy. It's pure love. It's like you said. It's knowing what to do at the right time. It's not with a rational thought, and it's possible to just, like, I've had long COVID this last year. When I look back, like, how did I think my way through these brain fog months when it was really dark? And
Mm,
I did it because I knew it doesn't matter about what I think. And so I just
mm.
always, every day, like, okay, show me what to do now. Can't remember. Oh, I'm doing that. Now what? Okay, got it. So it's like channeling my life for a year, but I'm through the worst of that, and I feel like I'm back, and my breath, most of it's back, so it's good. I shouldn't talk too much about that, but anyway.
Well, how incredible though, to, I mean, it's like strengthening your connection during a time that feels incredibly human, which we all go through these very human times. And I'm sure anybody who had COVID experienced that. And it's, I noticed for me, I didn't have it this year. And but I have had experiences like, surgeries or things that, where I was laid up and I couldn't do what I would normally do. And it's really easy in those experiences to feel down, to let our energy get low and depressed and discouraged. And it's such an amazing way of, like, you don't have to do anything. I mean, there was a guy that I mean, I'll try to make this quick, but there was a story that I saw, a documentary of a young man who got falsely accused of committing a crime and was in jail for like 9.5 years, and how he didn't have any tools of meditation, but he read. He just went into different worlds through his imagination. And people are often surprised that imagination is the key to accessing the subconscious mind. And but we can do it. We can really free ourselves. I think there's also a belief that it's escapism, and escapism is bad, right? Like, you have to face reality and you have to just sort of like shoulder through it. And I think
Well,
go
well,
ahead.
yeah. Well, after that point nine, and I love what you're talking about, and it's just going through, like, you're just so good at this. You just go straight from one to the next point. I didn't, by the way, I did not give her the 10 tips. I don't think you're cheating. But the 10th one is like choosing your attitude. And this is like Viktor Frankl, who wrote that amazing book about his life as a Holocaust survivor and how he was able to really choose the attitude. And that's what happens, because whatever is going on that may feel impossible, just focusing on one good little thing that you did have something to do with that's going well, just starting with that, which is also the root of positive psychology. And
Yeah.
but these kind of keys of staying optimistic is so important, and it's possible to do just by getting to a neutral place and feeling grounded and just feeling love, and just no matter what's happening, just knowing you can do that. Seriously, no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
We all have that ability, and we all have access to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had clients who have had terrible childhoods, where there's a lot of trauma, and it's like a nightmare, really. I mean, I've, there are some really rough experiences that people come to the planet and intend to have, as crazy as that sounds. But that person, these people are they know it coming in, but it's intentional because they really want to have these experiences for whatever reason. It's a soul choice. And so in the hypnotic work, the regression work, people can actually go back to times in their life where all they remember is like negativity and terror or pain. And they can remember moments where they have like a beautiful interaction with nature, or they have a beautiful interaction just with the breeze on their face, and you can bring that visceral memory back and have it anchored into your being, and have that be kind of like a touchstone memory. And it can be like, like truly like a touchstone. Like you can imbue it as if it's something that's a part of you, and tap into it whenever you're feeling down, and just like that, getting to the neutral memory or neutral feeling, and then shifting into a place of love. Like, I love that. Like, you don't even have to come up with a good memory. Just getting into a more neutral place allows us to pivot and have control over our thoughts. And it doesn't have to feel so hard. I think people really get overwhelmed when the momentum of something really intense has hit us. And my eyes are watering. And so the momentum is there, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't handle it, it's too much. And sort of like having the awareness that you don't have to shift immediately from 0 to a completely different direction and feel like zippity doo dah. Obviously, you're not going to feel that way. So I love that neutral shift to a neutral place, and then start thinking about something that is just easy and light and loving. Animals are really easy for me, or just staring at the trees,
Oh yeah, and plants are good too. I got my plants right here next to me.
What a perky little guy.
I know. This is my musician. It was so cute. It wanted to play music the other day, and I hooked it up to Music of the Plants, and I swear it just made 2 notes. It sounded like "thank you."
Oh my gosh!
I was like, "Why are you silent?"
How do you hook it up? We got to talk about that. I know we talked about it a little.
I should show the device and everything. I don't have it right here, but it's so cute. It's just this little, it's like it looks the size of a cell phone, and you just turn it on. And then there's one probe that goes in the soil, one that you clip it onto a leaf. And then it's just like, it's kind of like when you have a galvanic skin resonance device for like lie detection and biofeedback for humans. Like a biofeedback device that creates music, so the plant can hear it. And it was funny to me because it just said thank you, and then it was waiting. And because I'd been talking and talking and talking, like on a call to a person, and it was telling me like I want to play music, so I hook it up. But then I'm done with my call. I'm not talking, and it's waiting for me. Like it wanted me to talk because it wanted to play with me. I was like, so. But that's what's cool about devices like that you can. I'm not anti-technology. I love technology, but I like it when it connects us. So it has to help us feel like more connected, more caring. Then it's really good.
Well, next time you're on the show, let's play with that device, because if you can, maybe you could put a link to how to access that device, so if people who are interested can learn more about it.
Yeah, it was devised from scientists and researchers at Damenher, but the website is musicoftheplants.com. And then get on their mailing list. That's what I did, because you may think their prices, oh my gosh, I was waiting 20 years for the device. So for me, it's like, yeah, I'm getting one. But they do have sales occasionally. So if you're on the mailing list, they'll let you know when something goes on sale.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I love that. I mean, I recently just bought the HeartMath heart coherence monitor. That's super cool. That was like, have you ever played with that?
I've played with it, but I didn't buy one, so I don't have one. I'm more into relationships stuff right now. And I can feel what's going on with my heart. But what did you like about it? What makes it
Well,
fun for you?
I like it because it helps me refine. There are times when I think I'm in coherence and I'm actually not, and times where I would think that I'm not actually in coherence and I actually am. So I found that refinement really interesting, and I'm still playing with it. But it's also fun to play with clients in that space of showing them. What's interesting is when I explain how it works to clients and I just have them run through a round or two of coherence, and that their only real objective is to breathe through the heart space and just stay in a loving place, they do an amazing job. And so when they do that, I can say, that is an indication that you have the ability to control your thoughts, to control your mind, and to feel that open-hearted love that is going to shift your reality.
That's one of my favorite things to do, is help people feel love in their heart from everyone who's ever loved them, everyone who loves them right now, everyone who will ever love them, and get in touch with their best possible future self. That's so powerful. I
Oh, that
agree.
is so powerful. Imagine if we all did that every day, every morning.
Yeah. It would be like heaven on earth, because then the drama is gone at that point. Can be gone as long as people resist the temptation. Like, just don't go there, don't say it, don't do that.
Yeah.
Often that's how we get in trouble. We just like, well, I just think they should know. Really, did they ask you? Do you need to do that?
Well, we have to, we have to start. I mean, I think there are people who understand that drama is not serving, but then there are also people who are like, I get a lot of juice out of drama. Like, it's still somehow entertaining to them, you know? But I see, like, we're like that Hopi rock that you were talking about, you know, we're choosing. And I think at some point, and I don't know how it's going to show up, we're going to have an opportunity to recognize that something really dramatic has shifted, you know?
Well, I think we're receiving lots of opportunities in the forms of crises lately, and I think that'll probably be a trend continuing. But the good news is, if you've got that cloud busting ability, the wet blanket popping ability, or whatever you want to call it,
the wet blanket drying.
Yeah. What the Hopis say is, keep the Kopavi open so that your crown chakra is open, so you don't have clouds in your sky, and keep the door of your heart open. So that's what they talk about, that you need to be connected with your relationships, you need to stay connected to your divine source guidance, and then everything's okay, even if you have a propensity to like a little drama. That's a troublemaker. You're causing a little mischief. Hopefully it's not too much.
Well, what I find, I mean, I come from a nice heritage of chaos and drama creating, and that was a part of my sort of patterning, and we're gonna have to close up here soon. But, you know, what I find is so much more juicy and interesting is creating a space where people feel aligned with their soul truth and their soul potential. And like, really, that's really a lot of the work that I'm building and energizing is really raising the bar of who we can be as individually and on a collective level. And I know that's what you're doing through your work too. And that has an effect. And that's much more interesting to me and fun and you know, gets me way more jazzed up and excited than any drama, which tanks my energy, creates negative, like destroys relationships. It's not I'm gonna optimize, like, people who like drama and need excitement. This way that Cynthia Sue and I are talking is a way of getting that delicious juiciness out of life without all of the negative byproducts.
Yeah, well said. I can't really add much to it, except that what excites me that I haven't mentioned, I don't know how much time we have, is just shout out to International Mandela. We've talked about RealityShifters.com. That's my website where I've been publishing a newsletter every month for more than 20 years, but also, and sharing stories, firsthand reports of these amazing things. Like, there's a photo of my little screw in there. I review a book that was about a spacecraft crash in 1945 where there are living witnesses and pieces of the spacecraft that they found, and it's like fully documented. That book just came out and I reviewed it.
Oh,
I've got
cool.
a link to our previous part 1
I
of
saw
this.
that. I mean, you got a lot of stuff on there these days. That's awesome.
That's just what happened last month. Each month I share what happened last month. So there's a lot. Yeah,
There's
and
a
I don't
lot
want to go
going
into all
on.
of it. There's a lot.
Check
So
it
if
out,
people feel like,
people.
yeah, they want something positive, that's positive. So
Oh,
yeah, check
yeah.
that out. And then one of the things is International Mandela Effect Conference, and we'll be doing another live stream. I think it's forget which Wednesday it is coming up. I think not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday.
Oh,
So that's
awesome.
IMEC. We've got a website on YouTube. Find it, sign up, and then you'll get notifications when we go live. And we'll be announcing it like to make sure the day before or so. So that's
Send me all
International
of that.
Mandela.
Yeah, send me that
Okay.
info and I'll put it in the description box because I definitely want to
Thank
go.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So before we go, I think it might be fun to share. What are your favorite things to do to write yourself in the morning? Like your first thing, what do you do? What are your tips?
Well, I check myself. I'm always my own best friend. So it's how are you feeling? What do you need? Start your day like that. And so I do a check-in, like how I feel. It's kind of like without the device. I just do it without no device. Like how am I really feeling? And if it's good, which I have been amazingly in these crazy, this is really weird, but I've been feeling great. So it's like, but that's not always true. There were years, decades even where I was just like, whoa, I'm pulling I feel like I'm lifting the earth today. Like, okay, we're starting there. So we're starting there. Good. So it's
Yeah.
whatever it is good. And then I ask, how good can it get? Meaning my day, everything I touch, and then how good can I get? Because I'm in service to highest good. Let me be in service in highest good. I don't need credit. I just need to be in service in the best way possible for all concerned. I totally dedicate my life to that. So like it's on. I'm choosing it each day. It's on. And that if I was feeling a little bit like, ugh, that usually pulls me a little further out of the sludge. And sometimes I literally feel like, what am I lifting here? But lately, not so much, thank goodness.
That's
So
so beautiful. The Schumann resonance has been spiking.
that's what I
Last week
like.
it was, yeah.
I think I live there, so it's like finally, like these
Yay.
are my vibe tribe.
I
But I don't
love
think,
that.
but I know it's kind of freaky for a lot of people, and even for me, the energies have been kind of weird. Like I saw a digital clock reverse just jump back. I needed 10 more minutes. It gave me 10 more minutes. I'm watching the clock on my computer and I'm like typing furiously. I have to get ready for this meeting. Oh, there's no way I can do it. I need like more time. And I'm checking every 2 minutes, like it's a countdown. Like you've got 8 minutes, you've got 6 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, you've got 12 minutes. Like what?
Oh my gosh. I mean, you're the master at that. That is so flippin' cool. That is so awesome. And so people, if you haven't checked out Cynthia Sue, you have to. You're crazy if you don't. What were you going to say? It looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, yeah, everyone can do this. Remember, it's just like, how good can it get? It's like a 1-2, and then no questions asked. So
Yeah.
how good can it get? Engage your intuition, your creativity, your connection to source, and then no questions asked. Turn off that whole tendency to wet blanket everybody and
Wet
everything.
blanket? Nope. Nope.
Nope. Not happening. Yeah.
It's not happening. We keep the wet blankets over there. Thank you very much. Well, on that note, go ahead. Go ahead. What?
No, I'm just saying it's like a catapult of wet blankets. It's like we're gonna disable that.
Wet blankets are going out of style. No more. We have friends who they have a son who sometimes is a wet blanket, but they call him, he acts like he's eating a wet sandwich.
Well, hopefully they're not going to make him feel that way always. Might be a phase, It's his wet blanket phase.
Well, I think, we all have varying degrees of natural proclivities. And some of the research that I've been doing is womb hypnotherapy, womb regression. And sometimes the programming and the mindset start to happen then. And so it's really fascinating to see people who have had experiences that aren't even really necessarily theirs, but they've been imprinted before they've
Right.
even been born. And then they're carrying it as if it's their own personality in their lives. And that's work that I'm really enjoying doing, is helping people shift. That's fun.
You are Wonder Woman. I knew it.
Consciousness Wonder Woman. So
Love it.
we're Wonder Women. And I'm gonna say this too, because I'd love for you. I know you're busy. I have a free Facebook group that is called the Conscious Goddess Level Up. And it's really, it's a community of women who are ready to just participate in leveling up in whatever way shows up for them. And I just want to create community for that. And so check it out if anyone is paying attention. And Cynthia Sue, of course, you're welcome. And you can share your delicious points of view, and we can all just be in this level up together.
Love it. I just love what you're doing. Always love talking with you.
I love talking
You're just
with
like,
you too.
you are a sun in the sky. You're like a sun, just like lighting up the universe. A
Well,
star.
how good can it get? It can get
Absolutely.
really sunny. Yay. Well, you
Let's
are too. Yeah, you're blasting your bright light on the West Coast. I'm blasting my bright light on the East Coast, and all of you, we invite you to continue to blast and connect with us in the field, because we're there and we're connecting to you. And I just love you, and we'll do
Love
this
you too.
again.
Yay.
All right. Thank you so much, Cynthia Sue. And welcome everybody to enjoy the first part of this. This is the second part. And Cynthia Sue has been on the show a few times. So I can see that a lot of people are really interested in your show. So just keep sharing it and spreading the word, because it's all for you. All right. Until next time, everyone, take good care.
I love that heart in your palm of your hand.
I'm trying to not drop it. Okay, this time, bye.